What's up, buckaroonies? It is your boy Zealand, and I am back with a video, and it's about Cloudians. Why am I talking about Cloudians? It's because my original build of this water fairy deck was based around making Zexal. This guy special summons multiple smoke balls, and you'd rank into any rank 1 number monster, discard Astral Force, discard a rank up, special summon Zexal. I'm actually gonna look at Zexal right now. And Zexal is relevant because Numerons can go first, make Zexal, shut down your shit, and then play another engine, namely Eldritch or, you know, Guru or whatever, and then they'd have Zexal and whatever they're playing. So it's just a big plus on top that your opponent has to deal with. So this reminded me of my Cloudian deck. It was way too inconsistent to actually play, but the fact that you can play Cloudians and make Zexal and cheese a win or two was kind of funny to me. And then I started thinking, you know, why would I play Cloudians ever at all? And since I had started playing it, some new cards that came out, Trias Hierarchia, things like that, old cards, new cards, helpful cards. So what is the point? Brief history. The original point of Cloudians was that none of them can be destroyed by battle. The drawback of that is that if they switch to defense position, they destroy themselves, but that's not terribly relevant. So the point was, you would summon a Cloudian, and it wouldn't be destroyed by battle, and it would be there next turn, so when you normal summon another Cloudian, you'd get 2 fog counters instead of just 1. And then you use their effects, so that's pretty cool. The point I'm trying to make here is that I want to play Cloudians again. I just want to do it. And if I'm going to play it, I have to be able to out Zexal. And not only Zexal, but whatever other engine they're playing with it. So I have a sauce up extra deck, a very thoughtful main deck, and a win condition that is basically attack for game and or make a lot of resources with level 1s. So the whole point is, get Turbulence, give it fog counters. For every fog counter, you can special summon a smoke ball from your deck or graveyard. And for as many fog counters you have on him, that is as many times as you can special summon copies of smoke ball from your deck or graveyard. So just over and over and over. And because they're water, you make the Starboy. Because it's a normal monster, you can splash normal engines. It's level 1 or lower, unexpected die, things like that. So I thought it was very interesting. And the fact that they're fairies lets you do different things too. So let's talk about just versus Zexal. Versus this card, if it depends, okay? Because Zexal, if your opponent controls no cards, the outs are Imperm, Gamma, and a Kaiju. Basically. Or Ghost Ogre. Anything that you can chain and play during their turn, because Zexal can only activate its shutdown effect on the opponent's turn. So if you control no face-up cards, you can use Impermanence. If you control no face-up monsters, you can use Gamma. But if they wait till you summon something, then you're not going to be able to deal with Zexal at all. The problem with that is that if you start metagaming to wait till they summon something so that they're out like Impermanence and Gamma doesn't work, you get to go to main phase. And that is what Kaijus do. That is what Super Poly does. And that's the thing. If you side or main Kaijus and they wait for you to summon something so that your Impermanence doesn't work, you just get rid of it completely. So they have to choose, do they have the out right now, or do I wait for them to play and see if their outs doesn't work? So that's the metagame with Zexal activation right now. And Numeron going first, making Zexal, that's the thing. So this deck mains outs to Zexal. One is Super Poly. Depending on what other engines they're playing, you just chain it, and it's gone. And you have a big monster. Another thing is Herald of Orange Light. When your opponent activates a monster effect, you can send this card and one other fairy monster from your hand to the graveyard, negate the activation, and if you do destroy it, fairies, very interesting. This is an Aqua, not a fairy, but it's a big boy, so we play it. And yeah, pretty interesting. So this is the deck right now. I'm going to go through my card choices as if it were a deck profile and explain how I'm going first so far. So Pot of Desires. We need cards in our hand, so we're just going to keep playing it. This card is just as good in the hand as it is in the graveyard in most situations. But most of the time you're going to be using Aerosol to discard a Cloudian or a dead Cloudian in your hand, because we're not playing double summon, and beef up Turbulence. Or if we're going second, beef up Zero Stratus. But mostly beefing up Turbulence, giving it fog counters so you can special summon lots of smoke balls. We play Foolish Burial Goods because if we send Cloudian Aerosol to the graveyard, we can banish it and one Cloudian monster, and then special summon any Cloudian monster from the deck. So we can special summon this, that can't be destroyed by battle. This, namely Eye of the Typhoon, is a big level 8 boy that cannot be destroyed by battle. If it's in face-up defense position, destroy it. And when it declares an attack, change the battle positions of all face-up monsters except for Cloudian monsters. So those big boys that have low defense, you just change it and then you attack over it. And it can't be destroyed by battle. So it's there to stay. They have to out it some other way, and it's pretty interesting. That's why we play 2, because we could banish one off of Desires. But we don't need this card to win. We can still win other ways. And one of those ways is Trias Hierarchia. It is a fairy, so it's live with Herald of the Orange Light. You can special summon it from your hand or graveyard. Quick effect by attributing up to 3 fairy monsters. Special summon this card, but banish it when it leaves the field. Then you can apply the following effects in sequence depending on the number of attributed monsters. So you can tribute 1 and just have a 2900 beater. You can activate this effect, and if they try to target it, you just tribute it and it'll go through anyway. But namely, if you tribute 2 fairy monsters, destroy 1 card your opponent controls. So during the opponent's turn, blow it up. In conjunction with Cosmic Cyclone, Called by the Grave, Super Poly, very interesting. And then 3, you can draw 2 cards. So you can do both, and it's not hard to get fairies on the field because you will have Turbulence to create even more smoky balls. Dodge, never mind. Negate that. So we have Ash Blossom because we don't want our opponents gaining advantage over us with weird cards like, you know, Cursed Eldland or whatever. Ash is just generic, but it stops advantage. Anything that makes your opponent plus, we don't want them to do that because they're playing ahead of us, and that means we're playing behind. So 3 Ash, even though it's not a fairy, but we'll see it because it's a 3. But the only other hand trap we're playing goes with our typing specifically, and it's a tuner, so Synchro plays somehow, maybe. Speaking of synchros, the extra deck is very interesting as well, but we'll get to that in a second. Unexpected Die is at 3. Everything we play at 3, we just want to see, and seeing multiples doesn't really bother us that much because we want to see it that bad. 2 and 3 card combos are normally lame, but what we can get off of our 2 and 3 card combos is just so good in this deck that it's worth playing just a bunch of them. So we have options here. Unexpected Die will special summon our Smoke Ball, and when we normal summon Turbulence, we will get 2 fog counters, special summon 2 more Smoke Balls. So we'll have 4 monsters on the field. Trias Hierarchia is live. Any other Cloudian we normal summon will get a lot of counters. They have to get through all of these. Interesting. We can Super Poly into First of the Dragons, 2 normal monsters. It must be fusion summoned, so that's what this is for. If they don't have anything we want to fuse with, we can control 1 Fist of the Dragons. This card cannot be destroyed by battle except with a normal monster and is unaffected by other monsters' effects. So we can just attack for 27 over and over and over again. It's level 9. Big boy alert. Trishula, the Dragon of Icy Imprisonment. It is a dragon, but it's also water, and it kind of fits the theme. Now we can fusion summon by banishing the above cards you control. That's not really necessary, but it takes 3 monsters with different names, and that is a Super Poly target. Starving Venom Fusion Dragon, everybody knows about that one. Instant Fusion is a card I run in this deck because we can make water boys. This is a level 4, so if you run out of options, you can make this. It's already water, so they cannot target your Turbulence or whatever other water you make, and you can change its attribute. Everybody knows what that does. And then we can make a Abyss Dweller after summoning a bunch of clouds and maybe having Hierarchia or this on the field. And then Sea Monster Theseus is a level 5 non-effect fusion monster. Takes 2 tuners, which we can hard make, but we're not going to, because instant fusion and then a Smoke Ball, that is level 6, so that can either be Coral Dragon to out something without really using your normal summon right away, or we can make Hyper Psychic Riser. This card is very interesting and I like it. Monsters with less attack than this card cannot attack, so Meluseek is dead, for example. Also, neither player can activate the effects of face-up monsters on the field with more attack than this card. If this card in your possession is destroyed by your opponent's card and sent to the graveyard, you can target a tuner and a non-tuner monster in your graveyard with the same type and attribute as each other, add them to your hand. So that last part isn't super relevant, but the fact that low monsters can't poke for weird things and big monsters cannot activate their effects, that's really good. So if you don't open the weird super flood the field link stuff, you have this. And that is why Instant Fusion is good. What else have we covered? Foolish Burial, just in case we have Foolish and Foolish, we can special summon any Cloudian from our deck, and normal summon Turbulence, or, you know, rank 1s. So this deck has changed drastically from a rank up Zexal version, and it has just become a deck that does what it does. It has interaction now. The main weakness of Cloudians was that they were very slow. People would have to play things like, you know, Sanctuary in the Sky so they wouldn't get their face punched in the face. And it's not very back row reliant, so you don't get your back blown out by Lightning Storm and then super duper lose the game. So that is one thing. Side deck, Game Seal is water. I was thinking about running Moray of Greed, but it's just any water monster you have in your hand is a Cloudian, and the few that we run, we're actually gonna want to just summon. And since Cloudian Eye of the Typhoon is wind and aqua awkwardly, it doesn't really matter. So we can't get greedy and play Moray of Greed. We have Artifact Lancias. The reason they're on the side is because Eldritch has to banish during the end phase, and they can't. If you wind up playing against Orcust, which is kind of roguey right now, I guess, other than Scrap Combo, I would say this is also a blowout. And if they have evenly matched and they want to give up their battle phase to banish your wife and kids, you can say I have a response, and that is going to be Lancia. Lancia is also a fairy, so you can negate monster effects. If the banish thing isn't super applicable, you use Herald of Orange Light and an extra Lancia if that happens, but we have options. Twin Twister is just, do we hate spells and traps? Yes, we do. Third Super Poly for playing against Pendulums or a fusion deck. Dimensional Barrier is nuts. I've always liked this card, but ever since I've had access to it, it's just, you have to play it. Because if you see it, it shuts down Pendulum, shuts down XYZ, shuts down any rituals if for some god-awful reason you are playing against rituals, and it's once per turn. So if you open up 2, it's not dead. You shut off their turn twice. So you get a lot going. They just have to pass. Or if they're, you know, for example, playing Eldritch, Zexal, Numeron, they just have to play Eldritch. And you have cards that can make Eldritch not do super great. And most of that isn't even the Cloudian cards. It's just good cards like Desires and Cyclone and Called by the Graves. I chose to max out Called by the Graves in this deck because if we get ashed on Desires, that sucks. If we get Veilered for some reason, and people are playing Veiler, which I don't know if they are right now, but I doubt it, in favor of Impermanence. But, you know, you don't want things to happen. You know, if Golden Lord hits the grave and sends your big boy, or whatever you think is useful, just hit it. You know, dang, hit it. Call by the Grave is too good in this deck. We just don't want our opponent getting ahead of us. And then Red Reboot, very good. I like it in combo decks, but it's so dead going first, it's not worth unless you're siding it. And then Wiretap. Wiretap makes it to where their very powerful trap cards do not put them ahead of the game and you behind in the game. Eldritch, Wiretap. Infinite Impermanence, Wiretap. Side cards, or even sneaky main cards, like, what's it called? Evenly Matched, Wiretap. I love this card almost as much as I love Dimensional Barrier. Actually, just as much, because I'm playing them at 3. And so, Starboy, Abyss Dweller is very important because it's a blanket negate, kind of like Herald of the Arclight. It just pauses the game for them. They can't play, you know how important that is. I won't go too much into it. But Starboy is very good for adding back Turbulence and boosting your water monsters so you can fight more harder. And then Link Spider gets dead Cloudians out of your hand if you're not using Aerosol and puts them into the graveyard. Link Karibo, you know, Tribute, and then if you control level 1, bring it back. It is dark, so you can't fuse with it, but it's a monster you can keep bringing back over and over again, so that's what makes it worth it. Then Almirage, if you happen to normal summon this and make something you want to protect from destruction, you can link this off and make Almirage. And then level 1s, that's pretty good. Relinquish anima. I'm thinking about putting Thousand Eyes Restrict just so our instant fusion can knock things. And that's just because if they say, oh, well, I don't care about instant fusion, well, now they have to care about Thousand Eyes Restrict. But it's not usually a huge deal because it's a 1-for-1 on negates and cards in hand, and I would rather go into something that progresses my game state than trades even with one of their Omni negates. So that's interesting. There we go. And next video, we are going to go into some gameplay and some test hands. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next vid.